Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. What's the Juice? Thank you for taking time to come and spend time with me on my channel. So before we go into part 2 of our story, I just want to give my usual disclaimer that I mean no disrespect to any of the people that I'm going to mention in this video. This video is just for educational purposes. It was compiled by all the material that I got online. So let's go ahead and begin. So we were talking about the story of Danelle Restivo, as well as Heather Burnett. Heather Burnett, the woman who was murdered in Bournemouth in England. So if this is going to be part 2, so if this is your first time on my channel, I encourage you to first watch part 1 and then join us for part 2 so that the story can make sense to you. In 2004, Danilo Restivo was considered to be the prime suspect in the murder of Heather Burnett, and this was after all the information that the police had gathered involving the unsolved case of Elisa Claps, as well as other things that they had uncovered as they were investigating Danilo Restivo. Additionally, they looked at some files that he had filled in at work, and he had filled them in at 9 in the morning, but the time that he put on there seemed to have been altered. In addition, at 9:25, I think, you actually see Heather Burnett's car returning from dropping off her children and going to her home. And 45 minutes later, you see a man emerging from the direction of about 10:12, you see a man emerging from the direction heading towards the bus stop. Now, the footage was not clear whether that was Danilo Restivo or not, but if it was, then it means that his alibi would have definitely been false. The police believed that he had gotten on the bus at 8:44, got it stamped, then gotten off on the next stop and went back to Heather's house in order to commit the crime. So under formal questioning, Restivo denied all of this. He denied being the man that was caught on CCTV. He said that was not him. Also, the police found it strange that Danilo Restivo spoke perfect English, yet he asked for an interpreter. And they thought that it was because every time they would ask a question, Danilo would have to wait for the interpreter to interpret the question to him so that he can respond. But in so doing, he was buying time. And they believed that he was actually buying time to think of what to say next, to think of answers. But still, they did not have anything solid on Danilo Restivo. And the police knew that they were missing something. They couldn't figure it out. So they decided to do 24-hour surveillance on Restivo. They bugged his home, as well as had police officers following him and taking pictures, just kind of to see what he would be doing, to see if they can catch him making a mistake. When they bugged the device, it revealed that he had a hair fetish. Also, when they bugged his home, it revealed that he had a hair fetish. Also, in following him, they caught him cutting women's hair in the bus when they were not aware. And this seemed to give him sexual pleasure. So that was something to take note, because when Heather was found murdered, in her left hand she had hair that they did not know who it belonged to, and in her right hand she had her own hair. So that some of the hair appeared as though the killer had brought it with him. So that was something definitely for them to note. In addition, the police decided to devise a trap to see how Danilo Restivo would react if they ran a story saying that Heather Burnett's murder had moved from Bournemouth, England, back to Italy. They wanted to see if, because they bugged his home, if he was going to talk to Fiona about it, if he's going to be nervous, if he's going to confess, if he's going to say anything to incriminate himself. But Danilo Restivo never incriminated himself. He talked to his wife about it, but he just talked like a normal person. He seemed surprised, but he never seemed panicky. He never said anything that would incriminate him. So again, the police were left with another dead end. The spy camera also showed a beauty spot, which was like a park where people take walks. They take their dogs for walks. They go jogging, they go cycling and everything. And so during the period when they were surveilling Danilo, they saw that he liked to go to this park. And it seemed like he would be lurking, just watching women walking with their dogs, just pretty much watching people. He had no real purpose of being there. So one day, while they were surveilling him, they noticed that there was a woman walking, and Danilo would hide in the grass, and kind of look and see what's going on. They also saw him going back to his car and changing into a new set of clothing. So that was strange to them, and they wondered, okay, what is he up to? So the police who were actually surveying him did not want to approach Danilo to ask him what he was doing, because they did fear for the public safety. But at the same time, they did not want to blow their cover, because what was the most important thing was to catch him to catch him for the murders of Heather as well as Elisa. So they decided to contact some uniformed policemen to come and talk to Danilo and find out what he's doing in the beauty spot park. And so they approached him and told him that they were in the area because there were a lot of car thefts in that area, and they were pretty much talking to everybody. And so they wanted to find out if Danilo had seen anything or heard anything. Danilo said that he had not seen anything or heard anything in regards to the car thefts. And then the police asked him, well, what are you doing around here? We saw you crouched down in the tall grass. What's that about? And Danilo said, well, I was looking for insects for my lizard. I have a lizard at home and he loves to eat insects, and I was looking for that. But when the police looked through his bag, there were no insects. Instead, they found a knife, a large knife. They also found a pair of scissors. They also found gloves. They found a bag. Pretty much it looked like he had a murder kit. Seeing as the police had nothing on Danilo, they decided to have a fresh look at the evidence. They started by looking at the hair that was placed in Heather's hand, the one that did not appear to belong to her. And they noticed that the person who this hair had been cut from, after they had sent it for analysis, had gone to Miami, had gone to Spain, and they were also in Britain. So what they did is they broadcasted some information on the television, asking anybody who could have been who had their hair cut some 10 years ago or whatever, something weird happened to them where their hair got cut, to come forward. But they never did get a response. Nobody did ever come forward. And they always wondered, was that the owner of the hair, were they a victim, or that was just coincidence? They also looked at the green towel that was found in Heather's bathroom when she was murdered. They sent it for DNA testing. By that time, DNA had also progressed and improved. And when the DNA results came back, they showed Danilo Restivo's DNA, sweat, and also they showed Heather's DNA. So the police were definitely interested to know, what is your DNA doing on a green towel that was at the crime scene that Heather's kids say they do not know the towel, it did not belong to them, and nobody else knows this towel. They also re-examined the shoes or trainers that they had found in Danilo's home, soaked in bleach. Now, there was a certain test that they did called LCV. And what this test does is to detect minute and extremely small amounts of blood. Where there's blood, it kind of turns blue. So obviously they couldn't really look for anything on the outside of the shoe because the shoe had been immersed in bleach. But when they peeled open the inside of the shoe, they were able to see blood particles. And the blood, so they couldn't tell whose blood it was because obviously the bleach had destroyed the DNA evidence of the blood, but you could tell there was blood. So they knew that those trainers that Danilo had put in bleach, he had definitely put them on with blood on his shoes. So that was something else that did not make sense to them. So when they asked Danilo about the green towel that they found that had his DNA, he told them that he didn't know what color he wanted for the curtains. And so he liked that green. And so he took it to Heather to see the green that he wanted for the curtains that he was ordering. However, this was strange because Heather's sister, Miss Lavoie, said that when she talked to her sister, Heather, Danilo did not seem to know what he wanted. He didn't know the design he wanted. He didn't know the color. He didn't know the style. He knew nothing about what he wanted. So that was strange that he would bring a towel for Heather to compare it and have an idea of what the curtains he wanted made, because he really didn't know what he wanted. But again, the police could not arrest him for a towel that was found at the crime scene. He had been in the home. He was ordering curtains for her. So at the end of the day, whatever they had, a clever lawyer could disregard it, could explain it away, and Danilo could really go scot-free. They really believed they had their man. So they wanted to make sure that they have solid evidence before they actually go for him. So everything they had, it could be explained away. So they decided to keep on going, to keep on investigating. However, there was a big breakthrough in 2010, 17 years after the murder of Elisa Claps. Two gentlemen were walking in the church, the Holy Trinity Church, back in Potenza, Italy, and found the remains of Elisa Claps. So this was very interesting. It showed that Elisa had never left the church. But Danilo had told the police at the time that she had left and left him praying. But when they found the body, that contradicted his story. She never left the church. She was in the church. That's where she was murdered. They also matched her watch, her glasses, and her shoe to glasses and shoes that she had been wearing before. They also noticed that Heather and Elisa's murders were similar. Both ladies had their hair cut, and both ladies had their bras cut, and their panties were pulled slightly down, and they were both attacked from behind. So 8 years after Heather was murdered, finally, Danilo Restivo was charged with the murders of Heather Burnett and Elisa Claps. The police decided to go for it. He denied and said that the link that they had was simply a coincidence and that he was not responsible for any of the murders. The jury took 5 hours to come up with a verdict of guilty, and they found him guilty for both murders. He was given life sentence, which was then decreased to 40 years on appeal. Elisa's funeral in the city of Potenza brought the whole city to a standstill. A lot of people showed up. A lot of people were devastated by her death. She had died at 16 years old, and her brother was elated. He always knew that she always knew that Danilo Restivo had something to do with it. Still, the family wanted to know, why did the priest refuse for the police or anybody to search the church? But they then discovered later that the priest did have a connection with the Restivo family. Even in the picture, you can see that the priest did show up for Danilo's 18th birthday. So that probably explained that. So that is the end of our part 2 and the end of our story. Thank you so much for taking time to watch my channel and to tune in. So don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so that next time that I post stories, you'll be able to see them. You'll be able to be part of our family here on my channel. So thank you so much once again for taking time to be on this channel. Again, if you have not watched part 1, go ahead and watch part 1. Thank you so much, guys. You have a good night. Bye.